Okay. All right. So, thank you everyone so much for joining us. We're glad to have you here. We are excited to host the first ever healing circle for Black Mental Wellness's Heal and Liberate Conference. My name is Tatum Carter. I am with Eating Recovery Center and Pathlight Mood and Anxiety Center. In this space, we're just going to offer you some creative healing from one of our Say It Brave Collective members. And if you don't know about our Say It Brave Collective, I will put some information in the chat and you can learn some more information there. A little bit about me is I am a clinician from Texas. And I am going to be here to answer any clinical questions that may come up, but I am going to allow Rae to lead us in all the creativity today. So I'll be watching the chat. And if you have any questions, please just jump in and ask us questions. No need to wait until the end, and I will put our contact information in the chat. So take it away, Rae.
Hello. It was a little bumpy getting in here, but thank you to everybody who decided to click on that link today and show up. So, my name is Rae Akino. I am a visual artist. I am from DC, but I practice a lot in Seattle and in a few different states. I have exhibits here and there or workshops, what have you. So, Tatum and her organization invited me to come today to share a little bit of an activity with you. So not only am I an artist, I am a active therapy participant. I'm in active therapy pretty much. And throughout my journey, I've realized how much art helped me unlock a lot of things mentally that I couldn't really before. I mean, aside from like the pretty stuff that you see, it was the other things like the activity we're going to do today that helped me process grief, process being overworked, um, just depression, stepping outside of my own mind, a number of different things, a myriad of things. So the way I usually work is I would invite you to share your journey, share whatever it is you want to share, ask questions, interrupt me, whatever. Like my sessions are always open for discussion. I want to hear from you as much as I want to share with you. So today's activity is going to, I didn't even give my info. So I'm going to type into the chat my website where you can see more of my work, as well as my Instagram, social media handles. Mute that. Unmuted. Okay. So my website right now is under construction still. I thought it would be up today, but the person that I have designing it, that process goes on beyond what you would expect sometimes. So
yeah,
it should be up very soon again. So for today, we are going to focus on telling stories or going back to when we were children. Remember when you were a child and you could sit down for hours and color with crayons, markers. Sean, thank you for coming back. So when you're a child, you can sit down with crayons for hours and just doodle your life away. So essentially, we are going to do that today. And the way we are going to apply today's activity is through this practice has been going on since before we all were here. We recognize it as hieroglyphs. And whenever you go to the museums, they all look like little doodles because they are. I mean, the object of it was to tell a story or give, proof that someone existed But today we are going to give proof that you exist. You're going to give yourself proof that you exist, and you're going to tell your own story. We're going to use very basic markers. I'm using a canvas today because this is what I had on hand. It's just a little one. You can use paper, construction paper. You can use whatever you have. I'm using markers because that's what I have right now. So I've done a different class similar to this one. It was focused on math, not hieroglyphs, but it did have a little bit of what we're going to do today. So I'm going to show you a little bit of an example of what I mean when I say doodle, or tell your own story through shapes and lines and color. So this is, I don't know if you can see this other, can we highlight this screen at all? So this
So
the
there
whole
you go.
thing is of a mask, but I want you to focus on the story that the outline design can tell. So this story is from my life or my experience. I have really bad issues with depression, and with depression comes confusion. So that's what I felt, and that's what I drew out. Um, Imposter syndrome, not thinking that you are enough or focusing too much on what other people have to say or the watching eyes, if you will. So you can see how something so basic as a little swirl can tell a story. So today, do you guys have any more or anything you want to share?
Nope, we're good to go.
Okay, I usually play music while we do this together, but with this platform, I have no idea how that is going to play out. So let me see, Tatum, would you be able to do that, or do you want to just go silent?
We'll probably just go silent. We can just chit chat because I don't know how to play music.
Okay, cool. I mean, doing this on Zoom, it's very different, very different. So I'm gonna direct you to the other screen. Don't know how to bring that up, but so the one thing that I want you all to keep in mind, if you are following along just watching, or if you're doing it yourself, my number one rule is aesthetic doesn't matter. Get the idea of perfection out of your mind. That is the number one blocker, the number one most critical thing that, or self damaging thing that you can do when you're doing literally anything, but specifically this. They don't have any idea or any specific destination in mind. Just start out with the intention of going on the journey. So, with that, I'm going to start with something very basic like a square. So, I want you to pick a shape that you feel you most identify with. I picked a square because I feel like we all start off in these boxes. And to start out with this activity, we all are mentally boxed in. We box ourselves in, the world boxes us in. The idea of this is to evolve from this box, this square, and turn into something else. So I also want to invite you to choose a color. I'm using black right now, but pick a color that you feel you most, just out of any, not just your favorite color, but a color that just speaks to you or you connect with so much. For me, it is purple. I'm going to use this purple marker. With the exception of this painting, every painting that I have ever done has purple in it somewhere. So that is always my color. It makes me feel the most grounded. It makes me feel the most myself. Oh, I have a purple thing on. Usually the wraps I wear on my head are randomly picked, but just for today, I guess. I don't know. I think purple. So back to the drawing. Um, I want you to ask yourself a few questions while you draw. So we're gonna have conversations with ourselves. I also want you to have conversations with each other as well as yourself. The conversation with yourself is the most important. Let me see. Let me see. Okay. Okay. Cool. So I want you to let me see. What can I ask myself? How would I get out of this box if I could? Would I take a corner route? Meaning, would I cut corners? Or would I take the long route and do what's necessary to do the work? I think I would try to do the work. And once I'm out, then what? Let's see.
So this makes me think, as you're asking yourself this question, like, how would you get out of that shape that you drew? Taking the easy route, doing the work, taking a harder route, take a left turn or a right turn. Like, each one can lead to such a different direction and a different outcome. But in the end, they all will get you out of the situation that you're in or the space that you're in. Sean, did you draw a shape? What shape did you draw?
I drew a circle myself, and I am drawing on the right side to get out of my circle. I wanted to ask to think about the material that you're using in your hand. Like, use some mindfulness. Think about how it feels in your hand when you push it against the paper and how that makes you feel. How many emotions are you evoking with that material?
You don't always think that just drawing and the hand to paper can evoke emotions, but it really does.
So these next few lines, for me, represent once you out of the box, you take a look around, everything is new, everything is super bright, and then you start just trying things. So this line, you try something, but you sort of stay within what's familiar. So you stay close to the box, and then you try something again with the next line, but you release something that doesn't serve you anymore. So you sort of shy away from the box. Then you try something again that's still similar, but then you go in a whole different direction. In that direction, you start to look at the people around you. Are they helpful? Are they harmful? Does it matter if family, friends, work friends, strangers? How do they relate to you? How do they relate to who you are and where you are? And every person is different. Every person is on their own journey.
The mention of family and friends makes me think of community and the community that we're building um, together for our mental wellness or um, apart for our mental wellness.
Also, don't just because we are putting definition on lines as we go along, I don't want you to feel like you have to do that because then that can leave you to be locked into your mind and feeling like, oh, everything has to represent something. I can prove to you it doesn't. Here's another line that I just drew just because I want you to also invite yourself, invite in the random notion to do what you want. You don't have to put a super deep meaning behind every line. And it's usually the super deep meaning that you don't put behind it, you find out something new. So,
That statement really spoke to me, Ray, because especially in the Black community, we're so quick to have a reason to do something. We rarely just say, we're doing this just because, or it's okay just because. There has to be a reason, there has to be an outcome. And just letting it happen because and letting it make sense later is a valid option.
and I also want to point out that even though I've done these workshops, every single time I do one, I am not just an instructor, I am also drawing out my own stuff every single time. So I don't want you to think that I'm just telling you to do something that I don't use regularly.
So every time you do a workshop, Ray, do you come out with a different piece of art?
Yep,
Wow.
not just a different piece of art, a different piece of understanding of something that I was missing or something that doesn't serve me currently that I'm used to using or used to doing. And then when I do a different art piece after that, it changes. Style changes or content changes. There's some sort of change.
Mm-hmm. And I think that speaks to how much art and creativity allows you to enter healing and offers a healing space.
In my work as an art therapist, I do expressive arts therapy specifically. Art can tell you a lot about yourself when you start to interpret your work yourself. My job as an expressive arts therapist is not to read or analyze your work, but rather have you walk me through your work and tell me what your art means. But when you start to ask questions like, do I have more closed form artwork or open form, meaning the shape itself is closed in its circle, or if it's open like a line, what does that say about your personality? Where does your eyes focus on? All those are important because that's a part of you and your experience and how you interpret the world.
So now I'm gonna do something random. I'm gonna change color and size. I'm just gonna use a whole different tool. Because sometimes we have to. Sometimes you're introduced to something that you didn't know you had the capacity to use or could operate.
I like that. It's kind of like how Sean said, what you're drawing says about you and shows your level of reach. Like, how far can you go? How far are you willing to step outside of your box? If you're drawing a lot of circles and they're closed, are you willing to find your uncomfortable place and draw some lines, or vice versa? It's like,
And if you notice you're a rigid person yourself, how much are you allowing yourself to make mistakes on your art? And if you aren't, how much mistakes do you allow yourself to make in real life? Are you giving yourself the self compassion to make the mistake and be okay with it?
I think that's so important, Sean. That's a valuable trait to be able to have a conversation with yourself about. If I can make a mistake in this piece of art and it still be beautiful and still can be something that is valuable but not what I intended, I have to have that same mentality for my life and the things that I'm doing.
Exactly. If you can love your artwork for its quote unquote flaws, can you bring that back to yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And then, a funny thing about being artists is we're our harshest critic. So sometimes we see a mistake, but then when other people see it, they don't even see the mistake. Instead, they think it's beautiful.
Yeah. I find that I look at art and think I could never do that, when in reality it's just starting. What kind of tips do you have for throwing out the ideas of perfection when you're doing art, or the rules that you've implemented to yourself?
Force yourself to throw a monkey wrench in your own process, if you will. So, for example, I just did that. Started out with little, really super tight lines and was going in one direction, somewhat of a change into curved lines, but not too much. And I said, you know what? This fat marker has nothing to do with the tool that I was just using. It's completely different. And in the beginning, started out with similar patterns that I used in the other marker, and then just made the decision to do something different. So I switched the entire board around and used broader strokes, used anything that was the opposite of what I started out using. And that forces you to recognize the difference, the change, adapt to it, and enjoy it, if you will. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to feel different. It's going to feel like it's going to mess up the picture. The idea that you can mess up the picture is so that's the only wrong answer. You can never mess up the picture. I know we like to say there are no wrong answers. That one is wrong. If you control it, it's yours. You can't mess it up. Whatever comes out of your mind, out of your hands, out of your mouth, own it. And you can't mess it up.
Right. I think that was a statement to take into the world, is whatever comes out of your mouth, own it. Whatever comes into your mind, own it. And you can't mess up your life. How do you find yourself, or how do you find the ability to get into your creative space? Maybe like if you're feeling anxiety or you're feeling something, like how do you take yourself to that creative space?
Usually by acknowledging whenever things get chaotic in my world. It's a red flag for me to go back to my cave, I call it. But when things get hard, and I try to not focus on just doing it when things get hard, but that seems to be the pattern, that when things get hard, this is my refuge.
Mm-hmm. I'm really fascinated about how your art piece has really just taken a different turn from where you started, and it's still so beautiful.
And that is what I want everyone participating to acknowledge the change and appreciate what you learned from it. Appreciate that you were bold enough to make the change. Even if you don't like it necessarily right now, you did the work to make the change, and you can change again. And that doesn't ever stop. And the change can be anything from trying something new, trying to joining this conference. It can be talking to a new friend. It can be not talking to an old friend. It can be starting a new job. It can be anything. Trying a new food.
I really value that we're taking this moment for healing and creative arts, because I just have felt a sense of peace just being here, watching you, Ray, and trying to draw my own stuff. It's like it's an intense sense of peace.
Tatum, how is your work coming out?
You know, my piece of artwork is coming out beautifully, Sean. I feel like I'm getting a sense of release. Um,
So I'm gonna invite other folks. How many folks are actually drawing with us? You can just put it in the chat. If you're just watching, that's okay too. You can still take away something. It's a lot more fun to get your hands dirty. And all you need is a pen and paper, really.
Oh, I love that, Amina. Amina's been journaling and instead of actually doing art, and I love that as well. That's definitely a form of art. My journals always end up with doodles in the margins, so I can get that.
Switch again.
Wow.
Time for a change. We're going to use the empty space to start something new.
As I look at what I'm drawing and doodling, I think, how did I get to this point from just starting with a simple circle? It's like, wow.
Why did you choose a circle?
You know, as Ray was talking, and she started with the box, and she said she feels like being closed in a box. And that spoke to me because I said, I feel like I'm in a circle constantly going around. And so that's why I chose the circle.
And as you say circle, I decided to go with spirals. I remember as a kid, I used to love winding myself up in the metal swings and just letting it fall. Yeah, you go in a circle, but It's not a perfect circle. So you can hit any point in the air. It feels free. I kind of miss that feeling. I mean, if I did it now, I'll probably be in pain. I'm not built that way.
But yeah, that was such a freeing thing because it was like when you did that on the swings, you knew there was a point you would stop, but you had no idea when it was going to happen. So there was a freedom, but it was a constrained freedom.
Exactly.
Sean, you said you started with a circle too, right?
I did start with a circle.
As did you notice in your artwork that you have more circles, or was that like the only few circles that you started with?
Most of my work were curves and loops and circles, very organic shapes. And then at the end, or in the middle process of this, I started to challenge myself by using more linear lines and angles.
For you, Sean, what did that challenge feel like to shift yourself to try to use a different shape?
I think at the end of the day, it was more like asking myself, what does that mean? What does it mean to constantly be in loops and shapes? And how do I challenge myself in life by taking a different turn, an intentional turn, rather than just riding the waves?
Mm-hmm. I think I can agree with that, mostly because I found myself doing the same thing, is trying to go to more intentional lines or straight lines and arrows versus just going with the flow of the pen.
Yeah, I don't know how. Let me see. Sorry. I'm trying to get the camera to pick up. I think because of the pen I'm using, it's picking up the iridescence in it. So you can't quite see what I'm doing on top of the purple. But the reason I decided to draw on top of the purple is because there are no mistakes. Just because you've gone through one phase that feels one phase of life and maybe a certain destination, you can go back to that same destination but choose very different paths. And it comes out looking like maybe You went, say you walked down the street and just looked at all the buildings, and you come back down that street, and next time you look at all the cars. We may not walk on the street at all. You might walk on the sidewalk. You might walk on the sidewalk in the street. You might drive in a car. All different paths. And it always looks different. Chose a different marker.
Rae, what does it feel like, or what does it look like when your art tells you it's time to pick a different color or change a marker?
When everything starts to look the same. I don't know if it's just my brain or if I can't stick to something. Like whenever I paint a picture of a human, maybe a portrait or something, I can't use just skin tone colors because it all bleeds together to me after a while. So if it starts to bleed together in the design, it's time to choose another color.
Mm-hmm.
So in life, if everything starts to run together, it's time to do something so different that it would maybe shock yourself. If that makes any sense. So, like I said, I'm from DC, born and raised in the DMV area, so DC, Maryland, Virginia. For those who aren't from here, it's a tri-city area. You can get to most basic points on the metro, and it bleeds into DC, Maryland, and Virginia. Once I got to a place where, I'm so used to the people, I'm so used to the mentality, I'm so used to everything, I decided to, along with other things, move across the country. Didn't know many people in Seattle, but I did. Everybody in DC, family, friends, thought I was crazy. And still to this day don't know, the value or the experience, the value and the experience that I had and why I still go back, as well as go to other places. But for the people who have never, they may have visited other places, but they have never moved and lived outside of where they were born, it's a different experience.
Mm-hmm.
Something they can't understand.
As we're coming up on our last few minutes, I just want to thank everyone for joining us. And our emails are in the chat if you wish to reach out to us. If you have any information about hosting a workshop with Rae, Love Your Tree workshop, we are excited to do that. And if you have any questions, please reach out. We are always available, and we would love for you to share your artwork with us. If you can email it to us, then we'd love to see what was created today in our healing space. And I know if you need to go because our time's up, then we'll see you somewhere at the rest of this conference.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
That was super different in some of the other workshops I've done. But how did you guys like it so far?
Sorry, I'm just trying to
Push the buttons.
Oh, Lord,
Push that button. I think it's the platform. Nobody's used to using it, and it's
it is the platform. It's a very interesting platform for sure. I thought the workshop went really well. I'm used to doing expressive arts workshops where you get to see the people a little bit more.
Yeah, that was different. Like on Zoom, I can see all of the boxes and the faces, and like everybody can talk and share their work as we work. I can play background music, and it creates like the music really makes sort of a space where people can get out of their minds. I mean, talking helps too, but it was different. It is very different.
Also, I thought we went to the full hour, but I guess not.
I thought we went to 250, but
oh yeah, I guess that's probably makes sense.
You're back.
Hi, Tia.
I'm back. I could hear you, but I'm back. Yeah, I think things went great, and I'm excited to be able to do this on different platforms like Zoom, where we have more interaction or things like that. But I really
do it in person.
Yeah, and in person too. I really connected with just healing in that time together, and I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting to participate. I was really just here for support, and I was like, let me pull out a couple pens and do some things. And so I really enjoyed that time together.
Yeah, this was a snippet, a very small snippet of what the experience is like when I do the full I Am series, where it's a couple sessions, it's 4 sessions, and it is the response. The first time I did it, I wasn't expecting it, but people really participated intentionally and wholly. They weren't just like going through the motions. And so the first time I had a room full of people crying, one of my therapy issues is emotional acknowledgement or just being in touch with my emotions. So being around other people crying was like, what do I do? But then I had to learn to let them do it. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to, you brought them to this space. That was enough. The rest of the work is on them. And it was a positive situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, even though I am not a clinician by any way, shape, or form, I do, when I have my sessions, inform my clinician that, hey, what we talk about sort of goes beyond this room in a different form. And they're like, well, okay.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I know from the schedule we had until 50, so I'm going to close out and I'm going to join a couple other sessions. And if you guys want to stay for the conference and join stuff, you're welcome. But otherwise, I will chat with you next week.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all for everybody who joined and is sort of still here. Hi.
Yeah.
I'll see you around.
All right. Bye-bye.